Nun Zayin. Good morning, everybody. We are Nun Zayin Amud Beis. We are on the first wide line. So yesterday in the Mishnah, we learned the halacha that after a couple gets engaged, and when the wife says to the husband, or the husband says to the wife, all right, now it's time to get married, there's 12 months where the girl gets prepared and the man gets prepared. And after the 12 months pass and they haven't gotten married, so the man is chayev mizonos, and he also is ocheles the truma. So the Gemara says, we're on the first wide line, Nun Zayin Amud Beis. So Amar Ula, Devar Torah, Arusa Bas Yisrael, Ocheles Betruma. On a Dioraisa level, even a regular Arusa, even before the 12 months, from the time of Erison, she can already eat the truma. Why? Shenemar, the pasuk says, the Kohen Kiyikne Nefesh Kinyan Kaspo, Behind Kinyan Kaspo. This girl, right, a woman, when you get married, right, you give her the ring or you give her the money, whatever it is, she's Kinyan Kaspo. And therefore, Kohen can feed her truma. Okay, so then matam amru eno ochela. So then why do we have this waiting period? Why doesn't an arusa eat truma right away? So Ula said, Shema yimzagula kos bebesavia tishkel achila chosa. The concern is that, remember, she's still living at her parents' house. The concern is that her fiance will give her truma. She's going to go home. She'll put the leftover grapes, in the fridge, whatever it is. And then her brothers or her father, someone will eat it, and there'll be a czar eating truma. It'll be a big deal. Okay, so after 12 months, how does it help? She's still living at home. So what's the difference? So hasam dukta miyachela. Kind of a fascinating concept, which is, I guess real estate was much cheaper back in those days. The husband, literally the fiance, he would have a place for her. You wouldn't want to give her food if she was going to take it back to her house. He wouldn't want to lose his food. He would literally be miyached her a place in his house. So she would come every meal. She'd eat all the meals by him, and then she would go back home. So you didn't have this concern that she's going to share the food or the leftovers with her family because she was eating in his house.
That's only after a year.
That's only after a year. That's only after a year.
Yeah.
Not like his house or just any dude.
Any dude. You're right. You're right. I mean, he may have rented her a spot, her own apartment, whatever it is. Rashi seems to say that it was kind of by her. But you're right. I mean, the point is the point is that she's not with her family. That's the point. So Ela Ma'ata, the Gemara says, what about a Luckit Kohen Yisrael? What if you have a Kohen, day laborer, and he's hired, at some Yisrael's house? Lo lechol b'truma. Maybe the Kohen shouldn't bring in his lunchbox any sort of truma because he might share the truma with his employer. But the Gemara says, Dilma asul l'mecha ba'adei. But the Gemara says no. Hasha midid hu sapule midid hey achli. We know on a midiraisa level, an employer is really supposed to feed his employee. They're supposed to provide him food on the job. So if the employer is supposed to provide the food for the employee, we're really concerned that the employer is going to take food from the employee. That's not mistaber, and therefore, even if you're a Kohen, you can bring, grapes in your lunchbox, whatever it is. You don't have to be worried that your employer Yisrael is going to take your food. Okay, so ulas. So the first reason why an arusa cannot eat truma from the get-go, even though midiraisa she can, is this concern of shema yimzagula kos bevesavia. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda gave a second reason. He said mishum simpun, because loosely translated simpun means a mum. The problem is we're concerned they're only engaged at this point. What happens if they get married? And when they get married, the husband now lives with her, and he's like, I don't know, he sees something he doesn't like. The whole thing is a mekaftos. I never agreed to this kedushin. I never realized she had this issue, and therefore, for the whole year or whatever time it was, she's been eating truma, and she wasn't really in arusa. So because of that, we say she shouldn't eat until they're married. Ihachi, the obvious question. Now again, it's a little complicated. The end of the Mishnah, if you recall, said that it used to be this whole 12-month thing, but then we said the Bezdin Shalachrein said we should wait until the chuppah. That's really what the Gemara is saying. Even if you went to the chuppah, but below nivala, why is it any better? Isn't there still the same moment? And the Rashi speaks out. It's obviously a question, even according to the Mishnah Rishona, meaning even if you say just 12 months and they weren't even to the chuppah, so then of course you should have this concern. Meaning, what does 12 months help you if the issue is there's a mum that I'm not going to know until I finish the nisuin? So the Gemara says, again, kind of a fascinating svara. Hasam mivdak badikla v'hadar ma'aya. Meaning we know there's this concept that we've seen throughout the Masechta of Ein Adam Terech B'Seudo Mafsida. A person doesn't want to make a wedding. A person doesn't want to start paying her the mizonos. So he's going to figure out a way to do some sort of bedika. Rashi says he'll have his female relatives kind of make their, they'll be at the mikvah the same day, whatever it is. They'll figure out a way to kind of do some sort of bedika, and they'll let her know, hey, before you put money into this, everything's okay. So we don't have a concern. We don't have a what? It's a little odd. It was a different time, but the point is, therefore, you don't have this concern. So when at the Shas Eris, you don't have this concern, but prior to the time where he's going to really put out money to either pay her or get married, he's going to make sure there is no simpun. So the Gemara says, "Ela ma'ata eved kohen shalachim yisrael alecha b'truma." We know that again, every kinyan kaspo of a kohen, his wife, even his eved kanani, even his animals, right? You can even feed your animals karshine truma. Any kinyan kaspo, but why are we concerned about the same thing? Maybe you'll have this eved, you'll be feeding this eved truma, and all of a sudden, somewhere down the line, you'll realize there's some mum that you didn't know about, and the whole kinyan will have been a mekaftos. Why are we concerned about an eved too? So the Gemara says, simpun ba'avadim laki. You don't have the same concern by avadim. Why? If the mum is something that's external, something you can see, like the guy's missing a hand. I mean, you would have seen before you bought him. So what are you concerned about? And if the mum is something more internal, similar to the concern with the wife, so the malacha kavai, you hired this guy or you bought the slave to do work. So shebasei what do you care if he asks mum? So they say, all right, well, what if the guy ends up being a ganav or he's a kidnapper? That's something you don't really want. But the Gemara says, higio, the bottom line is, again, he's a slave. You knew he wasn't top notch. He wasn't the top bacher in yeshiva, right? So, okay, the guy's a ganav, he's a kidnapper, whatever. That wouldn't be mavatal the mekach. My ika, so maybe, what would be something that would be mavatal the mekach? List him as Zuyan, he's literally like an armed robber or muhtav lamachos, or he's someone on the most wanted list. He's someone, on death row. The Gemara says that's again not mistaber. Hanu kala islahu. You wouldn't have bought this guy. You would have heard that this guy is on a most wanted list. So if you didn't hear that, that's kind of on you. There was a call. You shouldn't have bought this guy. And if you did, that's not something that we have to be concerned about. So bottom line, we had two different reasons why an arusa does not eat truma from day one. First reason was a concern that maybe she'll feed the leftovers to her father or brothers. And the second concern is there's some sort of mum. So the Gemara says, Michti, Bein Lamar lo ach. Whether it's Mula or Rabban Shmuel, Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, she's not going to eat regardless. So my Beinai, what exactly is the nafkamina between the two? Ika Beinai, the Gemara gives two nafkaminas, Kibel or Masar Vahalach. Either the person he specifically said when he got engaged, he's a real romantic. I'm going to accept you, warts and all, mums and all. So then you don't have to be worried about simpun. He's never going to claim mekaftos if he accepted it. And the second case is Masar Vahalach. This is something that we saw about a week and a half ago. There are times when a father, he was muster the daughter to the shluchei hapal, whatever it is. The point is, there were lots of nafkaminas in the sugya that we learned 10 days ago about what that meant. But for our purposes here, she's no longer going to be living in her father's house. And if she's no longer living in her father's house, we don't have to be worried that she's going to feed the leftovers to, her father's going to open the fridge and take whatever, the grapes or whatever it is of the truma. Okay. So then the next line in the Mishnah that we saw yesterday was Rav Tarfon or Rav Akiva had a machlokas. If you can feed truma to your arusa of 12 months, Rav Tarfon said you're able to feed exclusively truma, and Rav Akiva said no. And we spoke out yesterday. What was the nekudas machlokas? The question is, at some point she's going to become a nida. So what do you do in that case? Rav Akiva said therefore you have to make sure you give her some chulin, and Rav Tarfon wasn't concerned. We're actually about to see. Good question. We're actually about to see. So Amar Abaya machlokas b'vas kohen lekohen abu bas yisrael lekohen divrei kol mechza chulin and mechza shema. Fascinating. Abaya says that even according to Rav Tarfon, it says that you're allowed to give exclusively truma. That's only if this girl was herself a kohen. And growing up in her house, she always had to be concerned about how do I handle truma when I'm a nida. These are things that she was always, concerned with. But if she was a Bas Yisrael and she just has no idea about the stuff, then absolutely not. You have to make sure to give her enough chulin that she can always eat. But Amar Abai, and this is Alan's point, machlokas ba'arusa. This entire machlokas is only when she's an arusa. Avol bin asua, but if she's in a sua, divrei kol mechza chulin and mechza truma. If she's in a sua, and we'll speak out in a second what the case is, then you have to make sure that she has some chulin. So what are we talking about? If she's a nida and she gets truma, so she can't eat it. She's going to have to sell it and then with the money buy chulin. So the assumption is if she's an arusa, and again she's a kohen, so then she can go to her father and she can say, "Hey, I've got this truma, I can't eat it. Can you deal with it? Can you deal with it?" Or she goes to her brother. But if she's in a sua, then she's not living with her father anymore. So she can't do that. So therefore, you have to give her chulin. Now you might ask, well, if she's in a sua, why can't her husband just deal with this truma? So Rashi speaks out, and this is a time when people had more than one wife, that this man must have had more than one wife, and she's not living with her husband. She's living in another apartment. Again, real estate was cheaper back then. So she's in her own apartment. So she's not with her father. She's not with her husband. She's living alone. In this case, when the husband gives her the mazonos, he has to make sure that he gives her not only truma, but enough chulin so that when she can't eat the truma, she doesn't have to worry about how she's going to sell this truma and get the chulin. The husband just gives her the chulin. But bottom line is, Abaya said that even within Shitas Reb Tarfon says you can only give exclusively truma if the girl herself is a kohen and if she's an arusa. So the Gemara says, Tani Nami Hach. We actually have a brisa that says this mafurish. Reb Tarfon Omer Nosin Lahakol Truma. Reb Akiva Omer Mechza Chulin Mechza Truma. But Vamed Barma Murin Bevas Kohen LeKohen Avabas Yisrael LeKohen. But if she was a Bas Yisrael LeKohen, Divrei Akol Mechza Chulin Mechza Truma. Even Reb Tarfon would agree to Reb Akiva. And Vamed Barma Murin Ba'arusa. This is only an arusa who's living in Bevei Savia. Avol Ben Sua Divrei Akol Mechza Chulin Mechza Truma. And this price is now going to have a few other shitas as well. So far we saw Rabbi Tarfon who says you can give exclusively truma. We saw Rabbi Akiva who said you have to give some of the chulin. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer Nosen L'Shtei Yado Shel Truma Ba'acha Shel Chulin. He's kind of a machriya beineim. He has a bit of a compromise, and he says not exclusively truma, but 2/3 truma and 1/3 chulin. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Nosen L'Hakol Truma. Rabbi Yehuda kind of agrees to Rabbi Tarfon. He says no, you can give her exclusively truma, but v'himo cheres v'lo kachas b'damim chulin. Okay. So if he says you can give exclusively truma, how is he different than Rabbi Tarfon? So it's like this. Let's assume the amount of mizonos you have to give is $100. Rabbi Tarfon says you can give $100 of truma. She has to sell some of it. All right, so those weeks she'll have $80, $90. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you have to give her enough that she can sell the truma and she's still going to walk away with $100. Now,
The truma was cheaper.
economically, truma was cheaper. There's less of a market. Randy can probably walk us through these commodities markets, but in truma, the bottom line is because your market is smaller, you can only sell to kohanim, right? It's always going to be a little bit cheaper. So if you need to give her $100 worth of food and you're giving her exclusively truma and she's got to sell some of it, so Rabbi Yehuda would say you got to give her 110, 120, whatever the going rate for truma is, because he needs to walk away with $100. One last sheet there, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Kol Makom Shuz for a truma nosin la kiflayim b'chulin. It's 2-to-1. And my bein, so it's the same theory as the last one of Rabbi Yehuda. The bottom line is she's going to have to sell it, and you want to gross her up. You want to make sure that at the end of the day she is whole. So my bein, what's the difference between this last sheet of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yehuda? Ika beinayu tircha. Again, Rabbi Yehuda says you got to give her more because you got to make sure that you can sell it and be made whole. The last sheet of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says not only that, we want to make it easier for you. We want to make you to walk to the first kohen you find and say, "Here, I got this truma." And he says, "How much?" "I don't know, half off." Then he's going to buy it. Meaning we don't even want to make it difficult for you to find a buyer. It's a fire sale. You'll find a buyer and you're going to walk away with your $100. Okay. The next line of the Mishnah was Hayavam Eino Maichel B'Truma, which we said, right? So if a person is a Yavam, Ruvain died and his wife goes to Shimon, the Yavam, Shimon cannot be Maichel B'Truma. We spoke out yesterday. It's actually a bit of a chiddush because by definition, Shimon is a Kohen. They are brothers from the same father. And there's a Zika and she's a Shemeres Yavam. So why not? But the Gemara says, why not? My taima kinyan kaspo amarachmana by kinyan da'achavu. The pasuk said kinyan kaspo, and this was Ruvain's kinyan kasef, not Shimon's. So then the Mishnah then kind of spoke out a few cases, and it said, okay, so we talked about a girl needs to be engaged 12 months. Well, what if she was engaged 12 months by Ruvain, and then he dies, and it's an even situation? So she had 6 months of an engagement by Ruvain and 6 months by Shimon, or even 11 months and 29 days by Ruvain and 1 day by Shimon, or even 11 months and 29 days by Shimon, but only 1 day with the Baal. In all of these cases, it's not going to work. So the Mishnah said, all right, I get the point, but this last case makes no sense. You already told me that there's more of a reason why I would think she can, eat truma by the Baal than the Yavam. So if you tell me 11 months and 29 days by the Baal and 1 day by the Yavam doesn't work, why do I need the reverse case? I mean, it's pashut that 11 days and 11 months and 29 days by the Yavam isn't going to work. So the Mishnah basically says, what's the reason for this third case? I think Gemara says, you're right. Sometimes the Mishnah just kind of has this way of speaking where you're right, it's not much of a chiddush, it's just a series of cases, and it's Zuv, Ein Sarach Lomar Zuv. Okay.
I don't remember. There's Zika by her being Musa.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Even if the husband dies before marriage, there's Zika, and you'd have to do Yibum Chalitza. Yeah. So the end of the Mishnah said, we just talked about there's this 12 months, and you can feed Truma after the end of the 12 months. And the Mishnah said that was the Mishnah Rishonah. But the Bezdin Shalach Haran, they said absolutely not. You have to wait until the Chuppah. So the Gemara says, my time up. What changed exactly? So Amar Ula, Esmar Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Mishum Simpun. Now, it's actually interesting. If you go back to how we started the daf, who were the two shitas? It was Ula, and it was Shmuel Bar Yehuda. So it's the same people over here. So the Gemara says, okay, Bishlam Ula, I understand, according to Ula, Kamais Neshama Yidzugula post the base of Via. The first concern was that maybe she'll share this truma with her siblings. And then Basraisa comes along to Bezdin Shalach Haran, and they said, you know what? Mishum Simpun. I actually disagree. I think we should be a little bit more machmir because you know what? I'm not so concerned, or maybe I am concerned about you sharing the food, but I'm even more concerned about the Simpun, and that's why there was a change. Ella Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, but according turn the page. But according to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Kamaisa Mishum Simpun, Basraisa Mishum Simpun, my benai. Like what exactly changed between the Bezdin or Rishon and the Bezdin Shalach Haran? Like what? So the Gemara answers, Ika beinayu bedikas chutz. We spoke out, after the 12 months, if the concern was Simpun, why is she allowed to eat the truma? So they said this man has his relatives show up at the Beis HaMirchatz at the same time, and that gave him some comfort. So the Bezdin Rishona said that's good enough to put us at ease that there isn't going to be a mekachtos. He's going to be comfortable with that. But comes along the Bezdin Acharan, or whatever they were called, the Bezdin Shalach Haran, and they said, we actually think that Badika is not good enough. We still might have concerns of Simpun. And therefore, so we said Badika splits Marsav or Badika splits Shma Badika. The first Bezdin said that would have been a good enough Badika to we would no longer have a concern of Simpun. Umarsav or the Bezdin Shalach Haran said Badika splits Lo Shma Badika. That's not a good enough Badika. We actually want to wait until the Chuppah. Okay, next Mishnah. And I guess maybe before we do the Mishnah, it's worth speaking out. We said this maybe about a week or so ago, maybe 10 days ago. Naya Mishnah. So a person is chayiv to give his wife mizonos, right? In return, or we'll see, I don't know if it's in return, but a woman, any ma'aseh that she does goes to the baal. There's also another, we'll see next week, that a husband, in addition to the mizonos, he's also chayiv to give her an allowance known as the ma'a kesef. In exchange for the ma'a kesef, he gets what's called the moser. So if a girl, she works and she makes a living, whatever the moser is, that also goes to the baal. So a baal gives her mizonos, he gets ma'aseh yedeh. A baal gives her the ma'a kesef, and he gets the moser. Okay, so the Mishnah says, we are about to see. We're about to see, yeah. So hamakdish ma'aseh yedeh ishto. What if a man comes and he says, right, I am entitled to the ma'aseh yedeh ishto, and I'm giving it to Hektish, right? I'm giving it to the Beis HaMikdash. Harezu osavo chalas. Basically, it doesn't work. She can still eat. It doesn't work. Hamoser. But what if a man says, "I makdish the moser to the Beis HaMikdash"? So Rav Meir Omer Hektish and Rav Yochanan Asandler Omer Chulin. Amachlokas Rav Meir and Rav Yochanan Asandler if it works. And just even at face value, the mission is a little hard to understand because we just said a man is entitled to the ma'aseh yedeh. So why wouldn't the Hektish work? And the Gemara is going to get into it. So Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. This is the point that Alan just made, and maybe it's worth speaking out. We have a little bit. The Gemara is going to give a little bit. We have a little bit of a chicken and an egg issue. Meaning, what came first? Is it that the Chachamim said that a husband has to give mizonos to the wife, and because he has to give mizonos to the wife, we're concerned about Ava, we're concerned about shalom bayis issues, and therefore he's entitled to the ma'aseh yedeh. Or did it go the exact opposite? Meaning the husband needs the exact opposite. A wife has to give ma'aseh yedeh to the husband. Well, she has to eat, so because she has to give her ma'aseh yedeh to the husband's now responsible to give them a zon. But which one came first? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Huna Marav, Yechola isha lomar labayla, eini nizonis ve'eini osa. A woman is allowed to say to her husband, I actually don't want this arrangement. I make a good enough living on my own. I don't need your mazonos. We can have separate bank accounts. I'll go my way. You go your way. Everything's okay. So the Gemara says, Kisavar, Rav Huna Marav must say, Kitakinu Rabbanan Mizoni Iker, Umay say Adam Mishim Eva, B'chi Amra, Einu Nizonas, Ve'enu also Arish Biyada. Which one came first? It must be that the husband is chayiv to give mizonos to the wife.
Otherwise, she can't do it. Yeah.
In exchange, the wife owes the ma'aseh to the husband. So therefore, she's allowed to say, I'm not interested in this arrangement. This arrangement was done for my benefit. I'm not interested. And therefore, she can say, any nizonos, any also. But if it was the reverse, if first the Rabbanan were masakin that she has to give the ma'aseh to her husband. Yeah, but if it was the reverse, then she can say, I'm not comfortable with this arrangement. Who asked you? You have to give your ma'aseh to the husband. So it must be the Rav Huna Marav says that it's really the husband's responsibility, and therefore she can say, I'm not interested. Okay. So the Gemara asks, Meisvei, is this really true? Is that how it works? We have a brisa. This is something that we saw about a week and a half ago. Tiknu mizonos tachas ma'aseh. Sounds very much like the husband has to give the mizonos because he's entitled to the ma'aseh. So who is she to say, I don't want your mizonos? Who asked you? So Rav Huna answers and said, Ema, just edit the brisa a little bit. Reverse it. Ema tiknu ma'aseh tachas mizonos. No, it's the reverse. She's entitled to the mizonos, and therefore the Rabbanan were masakin, she has to give her ma'aseh to the husband. So again, if it's this formulation, then she's well within her rights to say, I'm not interested. Lema misayele. So the Gemara is going to say, I have a raya to Rav Huna. What's the raya? Our Mishnah. Hamakdish ma'aseh ishto. If a person is makdish the yedei ishto, the ma'aseh daim of the ishto, hare hu osen, hare e osa ve'ocheles. Doesn't work. So the Gemara says, like we spoke out. Like, what exactly is this case? Why wouldn't it work? He's entitled to it, so why can't he be makdish? So the Gemara says, "My lav b'nizonos." What's going on up here? What must be happening here is the husband has money. The husband's able to give mizonos to the wife, and she's the one that's saying, "I'm not interested." So she's saying, "I'm not interested." So therefore, she keeps her own ma'aseh daim. If she keeps her own ma'aseh daim, so of course the husband has no right to then be makdish her ma'aseh daim. He's not entitled to him. That must be what's going on. This is a riot or a Rav Huna that a woman can say, "Eini nizonis ve'eini osa." But the Gemara says, maybe not. Lo, bishe eina nizonis. Maybe I'll tell you, no, really what's going on here is the husband, Pasha, can't afford it. The husband doesn't have any money. Therefore, he's not giving her mizonos. Well, if he's not giving her mizonos, then of course she doesn't have to give him her ma'aseh daim. And that must be what's going on over here. So it's not a riot or Rav Huna, but the Gemara asks, Ibisha eina nizonis, if he's not supporting her, and in exchange, because he can't, and in exchange, she's not giving him the ma'aseh daim, I mean, that's obviously pasha. Afilu lamanda amar yachol rab lomar laeved asei imi ve'eni zancha. Even according to the Manamro says that a person can tell his eved kanani, I don't have any interest in feeding you, but I still want all of your work. Hani mili ve'eved kanani. That only works by an eved kanani. Blok sivbe imach, where the pasuk doesn't say imach. Aval eved ivri, but an eved ivri because imach lo. You can't do that. If you're not going to feed your eved ivri, you're not entitled to his work. Because you're ishto, and of course his wife. So the point is, if what the Mishnah was saying is where a man can't support his wife, she's not obligated to give the ma'aseh daim, that would have been absolutely pasha. The Mishnah wouldn't have had to say anything. Elamai, the case must be where the husband is supporting the wife, and still she doesn't have to give the ma'aseh daim. Why? Because she could say any nizonis for any osa, riot or Rav Huna. That must be what's going on over here. But the Gemara says, no, maybe not. Maybe it's the other case. What's the chiddush? Seifa tzricha. You're right, there is no chiddush to the reisha. But the Mishnah brought in the case of the reisha to teach me the case of the seifa, which was what? Mosar, if the husband says, I want to be makdish the Mosar, there's this machlokas from Meir Omer Hektish, Yochanan Sander Omer Chulin. We're going to see more about this machlokas tomorrow, so we don't have to talk about it now. But the bottom line is that would have been the chiddush of the Mishnah. But this halacha of Rav Huna, that a woman can say any nizon of any osa, pliga the Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish argues. The Amar Reish Lakish says, Lo tema taima d'Rav Meir mishum dekasavar adam makdish davar shlo bola olam ela taima d'Rav Meir mitok sheyachol kofa l'maisei yedah nasika omer la yakdish yedayich lo osem. Reish Lakish looks at the seif of this Mishnah. He says Rav Meir says that a person can be makdish the moser. So let's maybe back up for a second. What exactly is this case? Let's say a woman, the amount of ma'aseh daim that she needs to give to the husband is, 300, and she makes 100 a day. So now it's Sunday. She's going to make 100 on Sunday, 100 on Monday, 100 on Tuesday. Everything she earns on Wednesday and Thursday would be considered the moser. So here you have this husband on Sunday morning saying, I'm makdish the Moser. So how does it even work? We know there's this global machlokas throughout Shas. Can a person be makdeh or makdish davar shelo b'al olam? If the man is standing on Sunday and he's saying, I want to be makdish everything that I'm going to get on Wednesday, so maybe you'll tell me the Rebbeir holds makdish davar shelo b'al olam. There's no other possibility. Reish Lakish says that's not the pshat. Don't assume that's the pshat of Rav Meir. Rather, what Rav Meir is saying is like this: a man can force his wife to work for him. He can force her to do it. Because he can force her to do it, it's as if he's basically saying, not that I makdish Wednesday's work, I makdish her yadayim. I makdish the hands herself. Well, the hands themselves are a davar shabala olam, and therefore that's how you can understand Rav Meir. So the bottom line, what we need for our sugya is Reish Lakish argues with Rav Huna. Rav Huna said a woman can say, I'm not interested in this arrangement. I don't want to work for you. I'll keep my own salary. Reish Lakish clearly disagrees. Reish Lakish says, no, a man can very much force his wife to do the work. Because a man can force his wife to do the work, it's as if he's being makdish for yadayim themselves. And that's shot in Rav Meir in our Mishnah. Yes? But the Gemara has a very technical problem with this whole pshat. The Gemara says, all right, that would have been very good if that's what Rav Meir said. But the Halo Amr Laha, Rav Meir wasn't makdish for yadayim. Rav Meir was makdish the Moser. So what are you talking about? How are you learning? How are you understanding pshat Rav Meir that he's really makdish for yadayim? He didn't say that. He said he's makdish the Moser. So the Moser is all of the extra from the Ma'aseh Yadayim. So the woman is, let's say, responsible. Let's say Ma'aseh Yadayim, the Rabbanan said is $300 a week, whatever it is. Everything that she earns. No. So there's a mission on Samach Dalet that actually goes through this in detail. So I actually said we're going to do this next week. So there's a mission that actually goes in detail about exactly what it's like. 5 work threads. There's like all these. Again, you kind of have to be there, like really appreciate these amounts. Well, the point is there is a set amount, and everything that she earns on top of that is what's considered the Moser. And the question is, right? We kind of spoke this out earlier. A husband gives mazonos to the wife in exchange for the Ma'aseh Yadayim. The husband also gives a weekly allowance to the wife in exchange for her Moser. Again, very romantic back then. I mean, it was very transactional. So the bottom line is, the Gemara says, I hear you, Reish Lakish, but that's not at all what Rav Meir said. Rav Meir was not makdish her yadayim. Rav Meir was makdish the Moser. So how are you telling me that this is pshat Rav Meir? So Reish Lakish says, no. Because we know that Rav Meir shita is the Amar Ein Adam Moti Dvar L'Batala Nasaka Omer La Yakdashu Yadayich LeOsam. So it's fascinating. Rav Meir has a shita. This happens to be in Erechim. I was thinking this morning, I think I've done maybe like 5 or 6 days of Daf Yomi, and twice Erechim has come up. I don't know if Erechim has come up at all in the rest of like the entire Daf Yomi cycle. But the bottom line is Rav Meir has the shita. Yeah, Rav Meir has the shita that in the context of Erechim, we said Erechim, right, is a person says Erech Halayla Mikdash, whatever it is, and it's very actuarial. If the man is 25 years old and he's a male and he's whatever, this is the amount. So what if you say Erech of a 2-week-old baby, right? There is no Erech for a 2-week-old baby. What you said is meaningless. So Rav Meir shita is, we don't assume that what he said was meaningless. Rather, we reinterpret his words to be makdish something else. And that's what Reish Lakish is saying over here. Because Reish Lakish says that Rav Meir holds Ein Adam makdish davar shelo b'al olam, what does he mean when he says the Moser? He can't be makdish the Moser. The Moser's not here yet. Elamai, what Rav Meir must be saying, we reinterpret his words to say that he's being makdish her yadayim. And therefore, because the husband is able to force his wife to do the work, he can be makdish her yadayim, and that is what he would have been makdish. And that's where Rav Meir says that the hektish is chal. But the Gemara then has another fundamental issue with Reish Lakish's whole lima. The Gemara says, but the summer of Meir ain't Adam makdish davar shelo b'al olam. Your entire premise is that Rav Meir does not hold that Adam makdish davar shelo b'al olam. But what were you? I have a mufurish brisa that he does. What's this brisa? About time we have a brisa. But Omer liisha, man says to a woman, Harei mekudesh li la'achar she'eskayer. The kedushin is only going to be chal after I become a guy. Oh, la'achar she'eskayeri, or after you become a dioras. La'achar she'eshtachrer. I'm an eved right now. I'll be mekadeshu once I become emancipated. Or la'achar she'eshtachachri, or you're shifcha kananis after you become free. La'achar she'emas ba'alech. I'm being mekadeshu once your husband dies. That's actually creepy. Oh, she'tamos achosech. Or I'm going to be makdish you after your sister dies, meaning I'm probably married to your sister, and as soon as your sister dies, I'm going to Or right now you're a Shomeres Yavam after you guys do Chalitza. Reb Meir Omer Mikudeshes. Reb Meir says in all of these cases it works. How would this work? It would only work if you hold Adam Maka Dabar Global Olam Reish Lakish. Your entire house of cards is premised on this idea that Reb Meir holds Ein Adam Makish Dabar Global Olam. We see clearly that he does hold Ein Adam Makish Dabar Global Olam. So therefore, how are you understanding shots or? Yeah, it's a good question. I actually don't know because a person can't do Kedushin at all when he's still in Evan. So I was thinking about this yesterday when I was going through this. I don't even know how this works. I mean, yeah, the sister-in-law after that. Yeah, I don't know. Don't actually ask your LOR. It's kind of creepy. Either way, but the Gemara answers. So what's Pshat and Reish Lakish? So Reish Lakish says very simply, says, you're right, Mehahi in. From that price, of course, it's Pasher Meryl's Adamak Shavar Shalom. I was just saying, from our Mishnah alone, it's not Mukhrach. It's not Mukhrach that's how we. I can understand our Mishnah another way. So Mehahi in. From that price, of course, it's Pasher. He says it a parish. Meha Lekalamashna. I was just saying that from our Mishnah, it's not Mukhrach that Rav Meir holds Adamak Shavar Shalom. And really, I can tell you, there's another way of understanding Rav Meir. So why don't we, I don't know what time it is, but why don't we just continue? Yeah. All right, so we'll go a little bit more until the mace be at the top of the next Amud. So Hamosar, what if a person is Makdish this Mosar? Rav Meir Omer Hektish, Rav Meir says it works, and Rav Yochanan Asandler says it doesn't work. So Emas Kodesh, Kadosh. So according to the Mount Amr that says it works, when would it work? Rav Ushmuel Damri Chavai, Rav Ushmuel both agree that Mosar is La'achar Misa Kodesh. Kadosh. It only works after the girl dies. After the girl dies, you inherit all of her stuff, and that's when the hektish would be cham. Rav Ada bar Ahava Amar, no, Moshe Mechaim, it works right now. Moshe Mechaim Kadosh, it works right now. So heavy bar of Papa, B'mai. What exactly is the Nakudas HaMachlokus over here? What exactly are they arguing about? Ilema b'maila l'mazonos u'maila l'ma'akesef. We spoke out. A man gives mazonos in exchange for the Maaseh Yadayim. A man gives her this allowance in exchange for the Moser. So if it's a case where the man is paying her the mazonos and he's paying her the allowance, l'tzarcheha, so then my time of the mandam lachar misa. Rav and Shmuel has some explaining to do, right? If he's entitled to it, so why is the hektish not chal right now? The Ella, so maybe he'll tell me it's kashe'ei ma'ila lamazonos, v'lo ma'ila lama'ala kesef l'tzarcheha. Maybe he's not giving her the mazonos and he's not giving her the weekly allowance. Well, then Rav Ada bar Ahava some explaining to do, right? So then demand amar machayim kadosh. It's my time at demand amar machayim kadosh. So why would it even work now? The husband's not entitled to it, so why is he able to be makdish it? So Olam the Gemara says we'll split the baby. He gives her the mazonos, but he doesn't give her the allowance. Rav Shmuel Sabri tiknu mazonos tachas ma'aseh yadel. They say that the mazonos was tachas ma'aseh yadel, but u'ma kesef tachas moser, and the ma kesef is tachas the moser. The cave in the loka yav ma kesef, and because he's not giving her the allowance, moser didahavi, the husband's not entitled to the moser, and therefore he can't be makdish it. Obviously, when he inherits it after she dies, then it'll be hektish, but until then, it's not his. Ravada bar Ahava sabar tiknu mazonos tachas moser. He says that no, the Rabbanim were masakis the mazonos tachas the moser uma kesef tachas ma'aseh yadeh, and the weekly allowance buys him the ma'aseh yadeh. The kaven de kayav la mazonos. So since he does give her the mazonos, moser didei havi, he is entitled to the mazonos, to the moser, sorry, and therefore when he's makdish it, it's chal. So the Gemara just says the ma'ikmifli. So what is this machlokas about? Rav and Shmuel and Rav bar Ahava. So Mar Savar, Rav and Shmuel will say midi d'shchiach and midi d'shchiach. They say ma'aseh yadayim are shchiach, the mazonos are shchiach. So in exchange for the mazonos, which is shchiach, he gets in exchange the ma'aseh yadayim, which is shchiach, but he doesn't get the moser. Umar Savar, Rav bar Ahava says no, midi d'kayitz, midi d'kayitz. The ma'a kesef, that's a set amount, right? Ma'a kesef is a form of currency, whatever it is. That's a set amount. The mosar is the ma'a kesef is kites. The ma'aseh yadayim is also a kite. But what this person didn't give him that. This person gave the he tied.
Fluctuating amount to the fluctuating amount.
That's right.
fix the.
That's exactly right. So therefore, he's entitled to the most. I mean, he gave her the fluctuating amount, and therefore he got the Mosar, which is the fluctuating amount, and therefore he's able to be Makdash it right now. Okay, so I got a little tied up there at the end, but